everyone. I am going to do a not very CPAP related video, and I want to finally be able to tell my birth story, even though I gave birth almost 7 months ago. So I started doing a video because the baby was asleep, and then he woke up, as he often does. So I'm just going to do it with him, see how far I get, and then if I have to restart, I will. So my birth due date was May 5th, and I had gestational diabetes. So traditionally with gestational diabetes, they do want to induce you at 39 weeks. Wow. There's lots of different kind of... Seriously, Kat? Seriously? There's lots of different ideas on this. There's lots of different camps. Should you ever get induced? Whatever. I wanted to have a natural birth, but the biggest priority for me was to feel respected and listened to. And a natural birth wasn't like, I have to have a natural birth or I'll be mad. It was kind of like, well, natural birth would be nice, but I'm going to go with the flow and do what I need to do to get this baby out. And as long as everyone is respectful to me, I will be happy. So that's kind of how that felt. So I actually did start out my pregnancy seeing a midwife team, and I was planning on giving birth at a birth center, which was awesome. And I really like them. And they're actually, two of those midwives are my son's pediatrician now. However, around like 29, 30 weeks, when I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, I started to have high blood pressure. They decided that I wasn't a good candidate to give birth at the birth center, totally understandably, and I went to a different hospital, which is Northwest Hospital in North Seattle. So there's actually lots of hospitals really close to me, but I chose Northwest Hospital because it is a lot smaller, and I've just heard really good things. The big hospital near me is called Swedish, is a very popular one to give birth. However, I kind of heard about 50-50 with birth stories at Swedish. Half the people would say, oh, I loved it, it was the best experience ever, and half the people were like, no, this is awful, don't give birth there. So I didn't really want to take that gamble, and I had heard pretty much all positive stories about Northwest Hospital, so that's where I decided to go. So I saw the midwives there for the last 10 weeks of my pregnancy, and I had to have NST, which is a non-stress test, 2 times a week. So I was driving up to Northgate in Seattle traffic twice a week to make sure that he was not under stress, that he was doing okay. And that was fine. And I love the team there, and I want to go visit. We have to go visit Ashley, who was our I don't know. Don't know if she's a nurse or a medical assistant, but she's awesome, whatever she is. So we saw her twice a week. She did our non-stress test. It was cool. You were not stressed. I was very stressed, but you were not stressed. So that was good. So that was obviously when he was inside me before the birth. And then the midwives did recommend that at 39 weeks that we induce. So there's lots of different reasons for this. Some people say, no, you should never induce, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't want to spend my whole pregnancy pushing back and fighting, because ultimately that's not that important to me. I know some people it's more important to not get induced. For me, it was kind of do I want to fight this and have a higher chance of a natural birth, or do I want to have less stress? And less stress is always a priority for me. So that was my choice, and I think everyone has the right to do whatever they want. That's just what worked for me. I did, before my birth, I took a 7-week natural birth class, and that was very, very helpful. So I learned so much in that class, and basically the best thing I came away with is going into the birth, being educated on the process, knowing what questions to ask, knowing how to advocate for myself as much as possible. So even though the outcome of my birth wasn't what I expected, I still felt respected. And again, that was kind of my top 2 priorities: feel respected, and what was the other one? Oh, well, not stress out, right? So those were the top priorities. Natural birth was in there, it just wasn't the top. So 39 weeks, or the Friday before, we said we were either going to go in to induce Sunday night and start with cervix softening pills, or Monday morning But I went on Friday to kind of check in, and they said, oh, your cervix feels good and soft and open, so why don't you come in on Monday instead? We're not going to worry about Sunday. I'm like, okay, cool. So I had to go in Monday at 7 a.m. I asked if they could get me later because I have to sleep late because I'm tired all the time, but they said no. And I thought it was going to get going a lot faster. I thought, like, you get induced and it happens, but it took all day. And so I have idiopathic hypersomnia, and one of the things I did is I took modafinil, which I shouldn't have said that because now I'm going to get all these hate comments, but I took it when I was pregnant. Not a lot, and not only later in the pregnancy when I was like feeling really yucky, but that was that. So I took modafinil that day, so I couldn't really nap and rest up while I was getting induced, and that was stupid. But anyway, whatever. So they gave me all these pills to soften my cervix. It was maybe like, I think they had to do them a certain amount apart. Like I think they had to do them like 4 hours apart or something. So I think I had 3 different pills, and we were going, nothing was happening. And then around 10 p.m. they're like, okay, well, it's 10 p.m. Nothing has happened yet. You're not dilating, nothing's happening. Let's start the Pitocin. So they started Pitocin at 10 p.m. and I wasn't really feeling anything, so they kept cranking it up. And then finally around midnight, I was like, I think I maybe slept for like a half hour somewhere in there. I'm like, oh, okay. I feel this. This is happening. And I feel like it was around midnight or 2 a.m. I can't even remember because it's been so long. But somewhere in there, my water broke. So I got to go to the bathroom. I just felt like I had to pee. I felt like all this pressure. I just was like, I have to pee, but I wasn't peeing, but whatever. So I went to the bathroom. I came out and my water broke all over my socks. So at that point, we called my doula. And then I went into labor. I'm sorry about the cat butt in this video. This isn't even my cat. This is my nanny cat at work. Kitty, why don't you show your face? Then I get the cat butt, but whatever. So having contractions, they were pretty intense. I labored in the tub for a while. I did that for a few hours. It hurt. Just as birth does, I guess, most of the time. And then I did some nitrous oxide, which kind of helped, not really a lot, and that was whatever. And then finally it was around like 7 a.m. So I had been up for 24 hours at this point, and in my birth plan it said I would request an epidural if due to extreme exhaustion, and I was like, yep, I think that fits. I think I want an epidural. So I did have a doula there, and I was like, are you guys going to be disappointed in me if I have this epidural? They're like, no, do what you want. I'm like, okay. That was kind of my condition. If I'm tired, I'm getting the epidural. If I'm like too tired, I felt like I was too tired, so it wouldn't have really worked anymore. So, not the epidural. Like, me laboring wasn't really good anymore. So that was fine with me. So I got the epidural maybe at like 8 a.m. or so, 8 or 9. And then I was like, this is great. I'm doing this next time. Which, I don't know. We'll see. If when there is a next time, I'm not quite sure what the plan is. The cat sees a bird. I'm going to get away from her tail. So did the epidural. I'm like, this is awesome. I couldn't move, obviously. I couldn't feel my legs. And I kept being like, I have to poop. And everyone's like, oh, that's the baby coming. That's like, the baby's like making his way out. And I was like, awesome. Very excited to have this baby out. But I'm tired. So they're like, okay, y'all go to sleep. Me and my husband, who had been up for 24 hours, my doula, went home and went to sleep. They said, you rest up, wake up in a couple hours, push the baby out, because he was getting very low. I'm like, okay, cool. So I put on my CPAP and I went to sleep. Half hour later, they wake me up and they're like, hey, we think we have to do a C-section. And I was like, what? And I was like crying, and I was so upset because I really didn't want to do that. And I was like, ugh. And so everything I had learned in natural birth class was, if you're, and the reason they want to do a C-section is, one, because he was in distress, his heart rate was all over the place, and I think he just wasn't, I don't know enough about birth, but I think he wasn't turning. So, there goes the binky. So he wasn't in the right position, and basically I think he kept like trying to get out, but his head kept hitting on everything. So I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do a C-section, but if I need to do a C-section, I'll do one. I just didn't, like, the biggest thing for me is I wanted to make sure that they weren't pulling one over on me. So I didn't want them to do a C-section just because they felt like doing a C-section. that was the one thing that would bother me. I wanted to, if it was necessary, I would do it. And again, I wasn't going to fight it like the whole time and just do that, because that wasn't what I wanted to spend my energy on. However, I did want to make sure that they were advising me correctly and that I felt good about the decision. So I called so I said, can we wait on this? Can we wait maybe, can you give me some time to discuss this with my team? And they said, yeah, which was awesome. They said, we'll turn off the Pitocin. And then when we turn off the Pitocin, maybe we can make it, so maybe his heart rate will regulate, whatever. And I'm like, awesome. So I called my doula to come back. I called and my husband was there, so we're trying to figure it out. And then we called my sister-in-law, who was saying, here's, you can change positions, blah, blah. I'm like, I can't change positions because I just couldn't move. So my doula came, who was awesome, and she has actually had 2 children, and she's had a C-section and a vaginal birth, a VBAC. So that experience was really valuable to me. So I said, if you think this is legit, I'm good. I feel like I've done all I can. I just don't want to rush into this decision if they're being jerks about it. And I did really trust the hospital. I liked the hospital a lot. They had been good to me up until that point. The whole time. But yeah, up until whatever. They were good the whole time. So she said, I think this is legitimate. And I said, okay, I'm totally down with doing it if it's legitimate. So then I had that epidural, so I was chilling, and then they wheeled me in and did a C-section. And it was fine, and I didn't feel anything. And then what they did, my doula and I had talked about the C-section, so having the drape lowered, so they took him out, and then they had a clear drape up so I could see him right when he came out. And then they weighed him, and then you pooped and pooped and pooped. He pooped so much, and he ended up being 9 pounds, 5 ounces. Did you get cat fur in your mouth? Oh, buddy. He ended up being 9 pounds, 5 ounces, so he was very big. It would have been hard to get him out. I think his head circumference was 13 inches or something. So, I think. I don't know. So, I felt good about the decision. Mostly why I felt good about it is because I felt everyone was good to me. And, you have to be careful of the kitty, because the kitties get mad sometimes. So, I want you to be careful. So, yeah. So, we had a C-section. He came out. They cleaned him off a little bit. They put him on my chest, stitched me up, and his head was very messed up. His head was all had all these bruises on it, and I was like, I thought C-section babies were supposed to have perfect heads. But what had happened is, whoa, okay, kitty. I think this kitty is pretty nice, but gotta separate it. Gotta keep them separated, like the song, right? But yeah, he had been trying to get out, and his head just kept hitting against the places that they weren't. So his head was all bruised and messed up. So it was probably good that we did that C-section, and that was that. And then I had a baby. There were some other things after that were hard. He did end up having tongue tie, which was very difficult. We had to have it corrected twice. His suck muscles never quite got strong enough. I was doing craniosacral therapy, or taking him in for craniosacral therapy every week. But we were never able to exclusively breastfeed. But again, while that was important, it wasn't low stress levels was the most important thing. Over everything, I prioritize parental mental health, because I think parental mental health affects infant mental health and person mental health. So I was not going to stress about things. And we were able to do quite a bit of breastfeeding, just not exclusively ever. And you know what? We are fine. And it went well. So that was my birth story. I had a C-section. It was fine. It was a good experience. I really would recommend Northwest Hospital. Everyone was really nice. I felt very respected the whole time, which was good, because, I have a lot of trauma around the medical system, just with being so sick for so long, and, not getting that sleep apnea diagnosis for 16 years. Yeah, I have trust issues when it comes to medical providers. They should have referred me to a sleep study in the first couple of years of when I started complaining of fatigue. So that makes me a little wary of the medical system, but Northwest Hospital was a very good place, and I'm happy with it. And then his pediatricians are naturopaths who were the first midwife team I saw, and they are awesome too. And So I feel like he's had a really good start with having really nice, respectful providers, and I'm super happy about that. So anyway, I got a cough. Wait. I'm a tiny bit sick. So that's that. That was my birth story. And if you're gonna give me shit for it, then I'm gonna turn off comments. Yay! So feel free to do that, but I'm gonna turn off comments. So I'm here to kind of share that you can have a positive C-section and it's not the end of the world. And I think a lot of C-sections are very traumatic for people because they have a different idea in their head, and that's okay too, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a good experience. So I want to share that, and I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for watching. Bye. Let's say bye, Lala. Bye.